So back in the early spring, I took a wander into the rich and varied habitats of Bedelands Farm Reserve, Sussex. And I really do mean varied here. In this place you've got meadows, small areas of bog and marshland, waterways and woodland all pretty much existing cheek by jowl, with an abundance of life to match. Much of this life was just about stirring into action, and the ones leading this march in spring are of course the plants and their flowers, like these pretty little wood anemones, which are often the first to bloom, emerging as early as late winter. I did also happen upon two other early bloomers on this wander, one of which were these bugle plants, which spread themselves around the meadows like ground-dwelling vines, whilst periodically poking up a stem full of those gorgeous purple blooms. The other were these bizarre-looking flowers widely known as lords and ladies, and if you're wondering where they got this name, well, I'll just leave that up to your imagination. These will attract early emerging insects by producing a very unpleasant smell, which some say smells a lot like feces. This is just one of many examples of the 100-million-year-old relationship that has evolved between flowers and their insect pollinators. Like these tiny pollen beetles swarming all over this dandelion, which have evolved a particular attraction to the colour yellow. This is why they are considered pests by farmers of rapeseed, which also produces yellow flowers. Speaking of unwanted creatures, I don't think there is a more misunderstood garden critter than the humble slug. Yes, some do prefer live vegetation, and that can provide quite a challenge for some of us gardeners out there. But quite a few species, such as these gorgeous cellar slugs, are marvellous bioengineers. Due to their diet of garden detritus, they are useful inside compost heaps, as they are very efficient in breaking down biomatter, which can ultimately be used as fertiliser. So, as I continued to turn over logs in this wood, I discovered one of the slug's feared predators. This is the larva of a ground beetle. Quite unassuming at first, that is until you get a closer look at those jaws. These formidable mouthparts will lock onto a slug whilst the larva injects a solution which breaks its innards down into an ingestible soup. But if you think that's freaky, then you should see the sort of animal it is destined to become. This absolute monster is a violet ground beetle, which will predate anything too weak to escape its jaws. Another true lion of the undergrowth. I was also thrilled to find plenty of amphibians under these logs too, who use these damp areas to sleep during the day. They are mainly nocturnal, or to hibernate during the winter. I found mostly these guys, common frogs, who in spite of this namesake, along with many amphibians in the UK, are sadly in decline, mainly due to habitat loss and pollution. Toads alone, like this lovely little common toad, have declined by nearly 70% in the last 30 years. This is why nature reserves like Bedelands are so utterly vital as ecosystems. So the future may be brighter yet for our amphibians. You can imagine my excitement then when I found evidence that these animals are breeding here as well. These in particular are the tadpoles of those common frogs. They will remain at this stage for roughly 3 months during their gradual transformation into tiny versions of the adults. Also, I'm not sure if you noticed something else swimming amongst those tadpoles. This is an aquatic member of the woodlouse family. It's called a two-spotted water slater. It's the most common of 4 species in the UK, due to mainly its high tolerance of low oxygen levels in the water, which is why they're very often found in stagnant bodies of water. And finally, the only bird sighting I could get decent footage of on this wander. I didn't have a great long lens set up back then. This handsome jackdaw was hunting for grasshoppers, easily recognisable by that striking silvery plumage and white beady eyes. Like most members of the corvids, it's not too fussy when it comes to feeding and will regularly pick off small mammals, carrion, and has even been known to raid birds' nests for the eggs and chicks. Well, unfortunately, that's all from this wonder. See you in 2 weeks' time though, when I'll be showing you what happened when I wandered into the famous Knepp estate for one of the most exciting events on the autumnal wildlife calendar, the deer rut. Until then, happy wandering everyone.